Ren made a small sad sound in his sleep. It was so quiet Claire almost missed it. His scales flickered fast-changing colors too quickly. This looked like distress, Claire did not think. She just acted. She put down her datapad and quietly moved closer. She knelt beside the cushion pile. She was not sure what to do. The reports had been very clear about Krell personal space. Touch between non-family members was rare. It meant something important in their culture, but Ren made that sad sound again, and Claire's instincts took over. She reached out slowly. She placed her hand on the cub's small back between his shoulder blades. His scales were warm under her palm. They were smoother than she expected. She moved her hand in slow, gentle circles. This was how she used to comfort her brothers during thunderstorms back home. Ren's scales started to settle right away. The fast flickering slowed down. They turned to a steady, peaceful blue color. His breathing got deeper and calmer. "What are you doing?" Claire looked up. Zara was staring at her with wide eyes. Keth was awake too. He watched with strong curiosity. "I am sorry," Claire said softly. She started to pull her hand back. He seemed upset? "I was just trying to help." "Do not stop," Zara said quickly. She moved closer. She studied Claire's hand on her brother's back. "What is this?" "It is called comforting," Claire said. "When someone is scared or sad, sometimes gentle touch helps them feel better. It is something humans do for each other, especially for children." "We do not do this," Keth said. He did not sound angry, though. Just confused. "Every species is different," Claire said. She kept making the gentle circles on Ren's back. But touch can be very powerful. It tells someone they are not alone. Zara tilted her head. Her scales moved through thoughtful purple colors. "May I try this?" Claire was surprised. "Of course." "Come here." The young Krell crept closer. Claire guided her small hand to rest beside her own on Ren's back. "Just move in slow circles. Not too much pressure?" "You want it to be soothing." Zara followed the instructions. Her movements were careful at first. Then she got more confident. Ren's scales began to pulse with happy green and blue colors. Claire had never seen these colors on a Krell before. "He likes it," Keth said, watching closely. Then more shyly he asked, "Does it only work on sleeping individuals?" Claire smiled. "No, would you like to try?" Keth came closer slowly. His scales flickered with uncertain yellow colors. Claire patted the cushion beside her. After thinking about it, he sat down. He was careful to keep a small distance. His hunting instincts were fighting with his curiosity. "May I?" Claire asked, holding up her hand. Keth looked at his sister. She nodded to encourage him. "I think yes." Claire placed her hand gently on his back. She did the same thing she had done with Ren. Keth's whole body went stiff for a moment. His scales flashed bright white with surprise. Then as Claire kept making the slow circles, something amazing happened. A low rumbling sound came from deep in the young Krell's chest. It started soft. Then it grew louder. It vibrated through his whole body. Zara's eyes went very wide. "Keth, you are purring." "I am not," Keth protested, but the rumbling kept going. It got even louder. His scales changed to warm gold and soft green colors. "You absolutely are," Claire said with a gentle laugh. "That is wonderful." "Krell do not purr," Keth insisted. But his body told a different story. He was leaning slightly into Claire's touch. "That is, we are predators." "Predators can purr," Claire said. "We have animals on Earth called cats. They are excellent hunters. They are fierce predators. They also purr when they are happy." "This is strange," Zara said. But she was moving closer. Curiosity pulled at her. "Father says prey species fear us. That we must always stay strong so they respect us." Claire kept her voice gentle. She did not judge. "Your father is not wrong about being strong. But strength comes in many forms. Being able to accept kindness to let others care for you, that takes its own kind of courage." She looked at the 3 young Krell gathered around her. Ren still sleeping peacefully. Keth fighting his own instincts to enjoy the comfort. and Zara watching everything with sharp intelligence. She was trying to understand how this fit with what she had been taught. Besides, Claire added, you are children. You should not have to be fierce predators all the time. You should get to just be kids. What is it like? Zara asked suddenly. Being a human child? Claire thought about it as she kept the gentle petting motion on Keth's back. The young Krell had finally stopped protesting. Now he was fully leaning into the touch. His purring was a steady rumble. I think it is probably similar to being a Krell child in a lot of ways, Claire said. You learn, you play, you discover who you are. My parents taught me important things. They prepared me for the world. But they also made sure I felt safe and loved. They held me when I was scared. They celebrated when I did well. They let me be young while I could be. Krell parents do not hold us, Zara said. They train us. Training is a kind of caring, Claire agreed. Your father loves you. That is obvious in how he watches over you, and how he brought you here to learn. But we do not touch, Keth said softly. His eyes were half closed now. He looked very content. Not like this. This is nice. I am eldest, Zara said. There was something sad in her voice. I must be strong for my brothers. Father says so. Claire met the young Krell's eyes. You can be both strong and soft, Zara. They are not opposites. Some of the strongest people I know are also the kindest. Zara thought about this. Her scales moved through several colors. Finally, they settled on thinking purples. Then, with a decision that seemed to take all her courage, she moved to Claire's other side. May I? She asked quietly. Of course. Zara settled against Claire. When the human's free hand began the same gentle motion on her back, the young Krell's scales burst into bright golds. Within seconds, a second purr joined Keth's. The two sounds created a harmony that filled the quiet room. We should not be doing this, Zara said. But she did not move away. If the other Krell knew about this. What happens in this room stays in this room, Claire said. This can be your safe space. Just for today. The three cubs stayed close to Claire for the next hour. Ren woke up eventually. He blinked sleepily. He seemed surprised to find himself still safe and comfortable. When he saw that Claire was petting his siblings, he wiggled closer. He wanted his fair share of attention. Claire found herself with a lap full of predator cubs. All of them were purring happily. It should have been strange. Maybe even dangerous. These were creatures made by nature to hunt, to kill, to survive through strength. But right now they were just children looking for comfort in a confusing galaxy. The door opened with a hiss. Claire looked up. Commander Vexter stood in the doorway, frozen in place. His scales flashed through many colors very fast. Shock white. Alarm red. Confused purple. Finally they settled on something Claire could not read. The cubs noticed their father. They scrambled to sit up properly. Their scales immediately changed to neutral gray colors. The purring stopped right away. Father, Zara said. Her voice was small. We were just doing something. I see what you were doing, Vexler said. His voice was very controlled. It showed nothing. Claire stood up slowly. She was ready to apologize, to explain, to somehow make this right. She had crossed a line, she realized. She had touched cubs that were not hers. She had treated them with a closeness that probably broke many Krell rules. Commander, I apologize if I went too far. Vexler raised one of his 4 hands. This made her stop talking. He stepped fully into the room. The door closed behind him. Then he did something that shocked Claire into silence. He sat down on the floor beside his cubs. Show me, he said quietly. He looked at Claire. Show me what you did. Claire stopped moving. She looked at Vexler's face for any sign of anger or tricks. But the commander's scales had settled into steady blue colors. His amber eyes held something she did not expect. They showed he could be hurt. You want me to? Claire made a vague gesture with her hand. My cubs were upset, Vexler said. I heard Ren's cries even in the meeting hall. I came to check on them, to make them behave if needed. but I found them calm, happy, making sounds I have never heard a Krell make before. He paused. His scales rippled. Show me what you did. Claire slowly sat back down. The cubs watched with wide eyes. They were not sure what would happen next. It is very simple, Claire said. I just touch them gently. Slow movements, steady pressure. It is meant to be comforting. To let them know they are safe and cared for. Show me how. Claire looked at the cubs. Ren felt brave with his father there. He immediately crawled back into her lap. Claire started the gentle circular motion on his back again. Within moments the purring started. Vexler's scales flashed bright white. That sound. That is impossible. Apparently not, Claire said softly. The commander stared at his youngest child. He watched the way Ren's scales glowed with happiness. He watched the way his small body relaxed completely against the human. Keth and Zara had moved closer again too. They wanted to get back the comfort they had been feeling before their father came. We do not have this, Vexler said. There was something raw in his voice. In Krell culture, physical affection is seen as weakness. We touch our mates. We position our cubs for safety. But this, he pointed at the pile of happily purring children. This is unknown to us. I am sorry, Claire said. I did not mean to introduce something that goes against your culture. Do not apologize. Vexler's scales changed to deep purple. The galaxy sees us as monsters. Brutal, cold, unable to be gentle. And we have encouraged that image because it keeps us safe. Predators survive by being feared. He reached out one large hand. It hovered over Zara's back but did not quite touch. But we are not monsters. We love our cubs. We die for them. We teach them everything we know. Yet we never learn to offer comfort like this. May I show you? Claire asked gently. Vexler looked at her. Then at his cubs. Then back. Slowly he nodded yes. Claire guided his hand to rest on Zara's back. Gentle circles. Let her feel the warmth of your hand. The steadiness of your presence. You are telling her through touch that she is safe. That you are here. That she matters. Vexler's hand was so large it covered most of his daughter's back. It began to move in uncertain circles. Zara went very still. Her scales flickered rapidly through many colors. Then as the motion continued, she leaned into her father's touch. Papa, she whispered. She used a word Claire had not heard before. Not father, but something softer. Something more personal. The great Krell commander's scales rippled with gold and green colors. His voice when he spoke was thick with feeling. I feel you, little warrior. Keth and Ren immediately wanted their father's attention too. Vexler, moving with new purpose, gathered his cubs close with his many arms. He began the gentle petting motion Claire had taught him. Within seconds all three were purring. It was a loud chorus that vibrated through the floor. I have failed them, Vexler said. He looked at Claire over his cubs' heads. I taught them to be strong, to never show weakness. But I never taught them it was okay to seek comfort, to trust in the care of others. You are teaching them now, Claire said. That is what matters. They sat quietly for a while. Two adults from completely different worlds. They watched three young cubs experience a kind of affection they never knew they could have. The audio feed from the meeting hall talked on about shipping lanes and taxes. But in this small room, something far more important was happening. Ambassador Morgan, Vexler said after some time. May I ask you a personal question? Of course. Why did you do this? You owe us nothing. Many species would be pleased to see Krell cubs suffer. They know our reputation. Claire thought carefully about her answer. Because they are children. That is more important than species culture or politics. Everything else comes after that. And because I think the galaxy would be a better place if we spent less time fearing our differences, we should spend more time recognizing what we have in common. We are predators. You are prey. We are people, Claire said, gently correcting him. Different kinds of people, but people all the same. Worthy of kindness. Capable of connection. Vexler's scales moved through several colors. Finally, they settled on a warm gold. The Council believes humans are weak, soft, too emotional for galactic politics. And what do you believe? I believe, Vexler said slowly, that it takes tremendous strength to offer comfort to those who might not deserve it, to bridge gaps that others would not dare to cross, to touch a predator's cubs without fear. He looked down at his children. All three were now sleeping peacefully in his arms. Their purrs created a soothing rhythm. I believe the Council has underestimated humans, as we have underestimated the power of gentleness. Your cubs needed someone to see past the warrior training, Claire said. To remember they are children first. And they found that someone in you. Vexler met her eyes. My people could learn much from yours, Ambassador, if we were willing to set aside our pride. The learning goes both ways, Claire said. Your strength, your loyalty to family, your determination. Those are things humanity admires. Maybe what we both need is to share the best parts of our cultures. A sound came from Claire's datapad. The meeting would start again in 15 minutes. I should wake them, Vexler said. He sounded like he did not want to. Let them sleep a little longer, Claire suggested. The galaxy can wait 5 more minutes. The commander nodded. He continued the gentle petting motion that kept his cubs happy. He looked at Claire with an expression that might have been respect. Or perhaps something deeper, kinship. When this summit ends, he said, I will recommend to the Krell Council that we make closer ties with humanity. You have shown me something I did not know we were missing. I would not have my people continue in ignorance. I would welcome that, Claire said. Though I must warn you, Vexler added. His scales showed colors that might be amusement. When other Krell parents learn what you have taught me today, you may find yourself overwhelmed. They will want to know about these comfort techniques. We are a species that values practical knowledge. Claire laughed softly. I think I can handle that. On the second day of the summit, another Krell officer appeared at the observation room door. Her scales flickered with embarrassed yellow colors. She had 2 cubs of her own, she explained to Claire. They had been having bad dreams since leaving their homeworld. She had heard that the human ambassador knew a technique that could help. Claire welcomed them in without hesitation. By the 3rd day, the observation room had become something new in Galactic Council history. It was a cross-species nursery where Krell cubs gathered to experience something their culture had never offered them. And at the center of it all was Claire, patient and gentle. Teaching predator parents how to comfort their children, Vexler often joined her. He had become a teacher himself for this new approach. He no longer saw it as weakness. He saw it as evolution. You have started a revolution, he told Claire on the final evening of the summit. They sat together in the observation room. They were surrounded by a pile of sleeping cubs. Zara was curled against Claire's side. Ren and Keth were sprawled across their father's lap. I just showed you something humans do naturally, Claire said. The revolution is yours for choosing to embrace it. The Council is concerned, Vexler said. But his scales showed amusement, not worry. They say humans are dangerous. Not because you are strong or aggressive, but because you are infectious. Your ways of thinking spread like a virus through species that meet you. Is that a bad thing? It terrifies those who benefit from the old ways of thinking. The idea that predator and prey might not be eternal categories. That strength and gentleness can exist together. That the barriers we have kept for thousands of years might be more cultural than biological. His scales changed to thoughtful purple. You are taking apart assumptions the galaxy has held for ages, Ambassador. One gentle touch at a time. Claire Morgan stood in the big meeting hall of the space station. She wore her best clothes because today was important. The humans had only been in space for 3 years. They were still new to all the alien species out here. Every meeting felt like walking on thin ice. Today she would meet the Krell. Claire had read all the reports about them. The Krell were scary. They came from a planet with very strong gravity. This made them big and powerful. They had dark scales that glowed with different colors. They had 4 arms instead of 2. Their teeth were sharp like knives. Their eyes could see in the dark. Most aliens stayed far away from the Krell. The Krell were hunters. They were fighters. They were survivors. Their whole culture was about being strong. They did not like weak species. They called most other aliens prey species. Humans were somewhere in the middle. The galaxy was still trying to figure out what humans were. The doors opened with a hiss. Commander Vexler walked in first. He was huge. His scales moved with deep blue and purple colors. Behind him came 3 small figures. They only came up to his waist. Claire blinked in surprise. Nobody told her he would bring children. The young Krell stayed very close to their commander. Their scales showed pale yellow and white colors. Claire thought this meant they were nervous. Their big eyes looked all around the huge room. So many strange aliens. So many weird smells and sounds. The space station was home to 200 different species. It must be scary for small children. Vexler walked slowly toward Claire. His voice was deep like thunder. Ambassador Morgan, I am Commander Vexler of the Krell Sovereignty. These are my children. Zara, Keth, and Ren. They will watch these meetings. It is part of their learning. Claire smiled and bent down a little to look at the children at their level. It is wonderful to meet you all. I am Claire. The cubs stared at her with huge eyes. The smallest one took a step back. Vexler's scales got darker. They are not used to prey species talking to them directly. I understand, Claire said. She stood up straight again. She kept her voice gentle, but she did not say sorry. Shall we begin? The meeting was boring. They talked about trade. They talked about shipping routes. They talked about defense agreements. Claire found herself watching the young Krell more than the adults. They sat on soft cushions near their father's feet. They tried very hard to sit still. But they were children. After 1 hour, their attention started to fade. Zara was the oldest. She kept still the longest. But Keth started to move around. His scales showed both green and gray colors. Ren was the smallest. He curled up on his cushion. He was clearly fighting sleep. When the meeting took a break, Claire walked to the food area. The Krell family was there. Most other aliens stayed far away from them. They gave the predators lots of space. But Claire walked right up to them. She carried a tray with water pouches. I thought you might be thirsty, she said to Vexler. The commander looked at her with his bright amber eyes. You are not afraid, should I be? Most would be. Claire lifted her shoulders. You are here for peace talks, same as me. Besides, I grew up with 3 younger brothers. I know that look. She pointed at the cubs with her chin. They are very tired and trying very hard to be good. Vexler's scales showed colors that might have been amusement. They are warriors in training. They must learn discipline. They are also kids, Claire said quietly. And this has to be very hard for them. Right then, little Ren opened his mouth in a huge yawn. His mouth showed rows of sharp teeth like needles. The other aliens nearby got tense. Claire just smiled. How old are they? She asked. In your years? 7, 6, and 4. That is young to sit through 6 hours of boring trade talks. They must learn. Claire nodded. She understood this was important to their culture. But she also saw how Zara's eyes kept closing. She saw how Keth's scales had gone dull with tiredness. Commander, may I make a suggestion? There is a quieter room next to the main hall. It has the same audio feed but more comfortable seats. The cubs could rest there while still hearing the meetings. It might help them focus better when we start again tomorrow. Vexler stared at her for a long time. You show concern for my children. They are trying really hard, Claire said. That deserves respect. The commander's scales moved with deep purple colors. Claire had learned that purple meant the Krell were thinking hard. Finally, he moved his head in a small nod. Show me this room. The observation room was perfect. It was smaller and quieter than the main hall. It had soft seats made for different body types. Big windows showed the center of the station where ships came and went like dancing lights. Zara ran right to the window. She pressed her small hands against the clear material. Father, look. A Centauri freighter. I see it, Vexler said. He turned to Claire. This is good? Thank you, Ambassador. Of course. There are snacks in the machine if they get hungry. And if you need anything, just call the station staff? Claire started to leave, but a small voice stopped her. Will you stay? She turned around. Ren the youngest was looking up at her with those huge amber eyes. His scales had gone very pale, almost white. Ren, Vexler's voice had a warning in it. Do not bother the ambassador. It is no bother, Claire said quickly. I have some reports to read anyway. I can work from here just as easily as my office. She sat down in one of the chairs and pulled out her datapad. The meetings would not start again for another 2 hours. She watched from the corner of her eye as Vexler got his cubs settled. He spoke to them in their own language. It was clicks and rumbles that Claire's translator could not understand. Then he left to go back to the main hall where the adult aliens were having private talks. For a few minutes, the cubs were quiet. Zara kept watching the ships. Keth pulled out something that looked like a handheld game. Ren curled up on one of the big cushions, but his eyes stayed open. He watched every move Claire made. You can sleep if you want, Claire said gently. She did not look up from her datapad. I will make sure you do not miss anything important. I am not tired, Ren said, even as another huge yawn split his small face. Okay, Claire said. She smiled a little. 10 minutes later, Keth put down his game. He moved to the cushion next to his brother. Ren immediately curled against him. Their scales matched each other, pulsing with soft blue colors. Zara left the window. She joined her brothers. I am keeping watch, she announced, though her voice did not sound very sure. That is very responsible, Claire said. The room got quiet. There was only the soft hum of the station's air system and the distant sounds of the meetings coming through the speakers. Claire tried to focus on her reports, but she found herself watching the young Krell. Instead, they huddled together in a pile of scales and arms and legs. They were looking for comfort in each other. Despite how scary they looked, despite the teeth and claws and hunting instincts, they looked like any other children far from home and scared by new things. Claire looked at the sleeping cubs. These small beings were learning that the universe could be softer than they had been taught to believe. Someone wise once told me that peace is not built in council chambers. It is built in moments of connection between individuals who choose to see each other as people first. Who told you this? My grandmother. She lived through the final days of Earth's unified government formation. She said the politicians took credit for peace. But it was really created by millions of ordinary people who decided to be kind to someone different from themselves. Vexler was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, My people have a legend. It speaks of a time before we became warriors. When Krell were smaller, weaker, easy prey for the apex predators of our world. We survived by becoming harder, fiercer. By removing any vulnerability. That story is taught to every cub as a warning. Show weakness and die. But you did not die, Claire said softly. You thrived. You reached the stars? Maybe it is time for a new story. Perhaps? Vexler looked down at his sleeping cubs. Perhaps it is time to teach them that we survived not just because we became strong, but because we never lost the capacity to care for one another. We simply forgot how to show it. The observation room door opened. One of the human delegates came in. Ambassador Peter Grant stepped inside. He stopped short at the sight before him. Claire and a massive Krell warrior sitting peacefully together, surrounded by happily purring predator cubs. Sorry to interrupt, Peter said. He was clearly trying to understand what he was seeing. Claire, the closing ceremonies are about to begin. They are asking for you. I will be right there, Claire said. She gently moved away from the sleeping Zara. She tucked the young Krell more securely against her father's side. As she stood, Vexler reached out one large hand. Claire took it without hesitation. The commander's scales flickered with warm gold colors. Thank you, he said simply, for seeing beyond what we pretend to be, to what we truly are. Thank you for letting me, Claire replied. For being brave enough to change. She followed Peter out into the corridor. As soon as the door closed behind them, her colleague grabbed her arm. Claire, do you have any idea what you have done? The Krell are the most militaristic, aggressive species in this sector. And you have got them purring like earth cats. The Council is having a collective nervous breakdown. Claire smiled. Good, the Council could use a little disruption. The Centauri delegation has filed 3 formal complaints. They say you are contaminating cultural practices across species. The Verdani are demanding you be censured for weaponizing emotional manipulation. Let them complain. We are not here to maintain the status quo. We are here to build something better. Peter shook his head, but he was grinning. You know what the scary part is? It is working. I have heard from 4 different species today. They are asking about human childcare practices. The Krell are not the only ones who have been raising their young without physical affection. What you have shown them, it is spreading. They reached the main diplomatic hall. The closing ceremonies were already starting. Claire took her place among the human delegation. She smoothed down her formal clothes. Around the vast chamber, representatives from 200 species prepared to finalize the agreements that had been reached during the summit. But Claire's attention was drawn to the upper gallery. The Krell delegation sat there. Vexter was there with his cubs. Next to them sat 5 other Krell families. As she watched, little Ren caught her eye. He waved enthusiastically. His scales were bright with happy gold colors. The Galactic Council chairman called the assembly to order. He was a towering Centauri with crystalline skin. Agreements were read aloud. Formal recognitions were given. Alliances were acknowledged. It was all very official. Very proper. Then Vexler stepped forward. He would speak on behalf of the Krell sovereignty. This summit has been enlightening in ways the Council did not anticipate, he began. His deep voice carried through the hall. We came here as we always do. As warriors. As predators. Maintaining the strength that has kept our people alive. But we leave with new understanding. His scales move through a complex pattern of colors. The human delegation has taught us that strength and gentleness are not opposites. That caring for our young with open affection does not diminish our power. It enhances it. We have learned that the walls we build between species may protect us, but they also isolate us from connections that could enrich us all. A ripple of surprise moved through the assembly. This was not the kind of speech anyone expected from a Krell commander. Therefore, Vexter continued, the Krell sovereignty proposes a new initiative. Cultural exchange programs focus not just on warriors and diplomats, but on families, on children. Let the next generation learn to build bridges that we never knew could exist. He looked directly at Claire. Let them learn that sometimes the bravest thing a predator can do is trust a gentle hand. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species applauded. Others protested. Many simply looked confused. But Claire saw something shift in the room's energy. A possibility that had not existed before. The chairman called for order. This is highly irregular, Commander Vexler. Such proposals require extensive review. Cultural impact assessments need to be done, which we will provide, Vexler interrupted smoothly. But the Krell sovereignty moves forward with this initiative whether the Council approves or not. We have seen the future in a small observation room, with sleeping cubs and a human who dared to show kindness. That future is worth pursuing. After the ceremonies ended, Claire found herself surrounded by delegates from various species, all with questions about human practices regarding emotional support and child rearing. Some were genuinely curious. Others were skeptical. A few were outright hostile. Through it all, the Krell delegation stayed nearby, not threatening but making their position clear. They stood with humanity now. They had chosen a different path. As the crowd began to leave, Claire slipped away to the observation room one last time. She wanted a moment of quiet before the transport ships left. Before everyone returned to their homeworlds, she found Zara there looking out at the stars. I thought you would be with your father, Claire said. She settled beside the young Krell. He is preparing the ship, Zara said. I wanted to say goodbye properly. I am glad you did. Zara's scales flickered uncertainly. Ambassador Claire? What happens when we return home? The other Krell who were not at this summit. They will not understand. They will say we have become weak. Claire put a gentle hand on the cub's back. The gesture that had started everything? They might say that at first. Change is always scary, especially when it challenges things people have believed their whole lives. But you know what I think will happen? What? I think when they see how much happier you and your brothers are, when they see the strength in the bonds your father is building with you, they will want that for their own families. Change spreads through example, Zara. Your father is brave enough to be that example. And so are you. I am eldest, Zara said. Her scales showed determination now. Bright red and orange colors. I will help father teach the new ways. I will show them that warriors can purr. Claire smiled. That is exactly what the galaxy needs. Warriors who purr. The door opened. Vexler entered with Keth and Ren. The two younger cubs immediately ran to Claire. They wanted final pets and attention. The transport leaves in 1 hour, Vexler said. He looked at Claire with an expression that held deep respect. I have something for you. He held out a small crystalline object. It was no larger than Claire's palm. It glowed with soft blue light. Inside it, complex patterns shifted and flowed. This is a memory stone, Vexler explained. It contains a recording of this summit, of what happened in this room. Among the Krell, such stones are passed down through generations. They teach history to cubs who were not yet born. Claire accepted the stone carefully. This is a tremendous honor. It is a promise, Vexler corrected, that what began here will not end, that the revolution you started will spread through my people and beyond. 50 years from now, 100 years from now, young Krell will watch this stone. They will see the moment when everything changed, when a human showed us a gentler way. I just patted your cubs until they purred, Claire said with a soft laugh. Exactly. Vexler's scales glowed with warm gold colors. You treated predator cubs with the same kindness you would show any child. In doing so, you revealed that the greatest threat to the old ways is not force or aggression, but simple, persistent compassion. He placed one large hand on her shoulder. This was a gesture he would never have made before this summit. Travel safely, Ambassador Morgan, and know that you have allies among the stars. When humanity needs friends in dark times, the Krell will remember. The human who taught us to comfort our children. Claire felt tears coming to her eyes. She hugged each of the cubs. She got enthusiastic purrs in return. Then, to the surprise of everyone, including herself, she hugged Vexler as well. The great warrior stood frozen for a moment. Then carefully he wrapped his 4 arms around the small human. He was mindful of his strength. His scales displayed every color in the Krell spectrum. A visible show of emotions he was only now learning to recognize and accept. Thank you, Claire whispered, for trusting me with them. Thank you, Vexler replied, for showing us what we were missing. 3 months later, Claire received a transmission from the Krell homeworld. It showed Vexler addressing the Sovereignty Council. His 3 cubs sat confidently beside him. He spoke of the new initiative that was spreading through Krell society. Parents spending time simply being with their cubs, offering comfort through touch, building emotional connections alongside warrior training. The reaction had been mixed. Vexler explained in a message that came with the video. Conservative factions called it the corruption of proud traditions, but more and more families were quietly adopting the practices. They were drawn by the visible changes in their cubs. Less aggression. Better emotional control? Stronger family bonds. The revolution continues, Vexler wrote. Slowly, carefully, but persistently. You taught us that lasting change does not require force. It requires only the courage to offer a gentle hand and the patience to wait for others to accept it. The message included dozens of videos from Krell families. They showed parents awkwardly learning to pet and comfort their cubs. Many of the adults looked uncomfortable. Their scales flickered with uncertainty. But the cubs were purring. Claire watched the videos with tears streaming down her face. This was why humanity had fought so hard to join the galactic community. Not for resources or territory or power, but for moments like this, for the chance to share the best parts of what made them human, and to learn from the best parts of every other species they encountered. She thought about her grandmother's words, about peace being built by ordinary people choosing kindness. What had started in a small observation room with 3 overwhelmed predator cubs was rippling outward through an entire civilization. And if it could happen with the Krell who knew where else it might spread, the galaxy was vast and full of species who had forgotten how to be gentle with one another, who maintained barriers because they had always been there. But barriers could be crossed, walls could be climbed, and sometimes all it took was someone willing to reach out a hand, to offer comfort to those who never knew they needed it. Claire saved the transmission and sent a reply. Tell the cubs I am proud of them. Tell them that warriors who purr are the bravest warriors of all. And tell them that whenever they look at the stars they should remember, somewhere out there a human is looking back and thinking of them. She ended the message and looked out at the Earth spinning slowly below her orbital station. Somewhere on that blue world children were being comforted by their parents, learning through gentle touch that they were safe and loved. It was such a simple thing, this act of kindness, but it was powerful enough to change worlds. 6 months after the summit, Claire was called to another diplomatic meeting, this time on a neutral station near the Verdani territories. She wondered what this would be about. The Verdani had been among the species most critical of her actions with the Krell cubs. When she arrived, she found the waiting room filled with an unusual assortment of delegates: Krell, Centauri, Verdani, Tholian, even a few species she had never met before. They all looked at her with expressions she could not quite read. A Verdani ambassador approached her. The tall plant-based alien moved with careful grace. Ambassador Morgan, thank you for coming on such short notice. Of course. Though I admit I am curious about the purpose of this meeting. The Verdani's leaves rustled in what might have been embarrassment. We owe you an apology. And an explanation. Over the next hour, Claire learned something that shocked her. After watching what happened with the Krell, other species had begun examining their own practices regarding emotional support and child-rearing. The Verdani discovered that their young were showing signs of severe emotional distress, something they had attributed to normal development. But after consulting with human child development experts, they realized it was actually trauma from lack of physical comfort. We are plant-based, the Verdani explained. We assumed our young did not need touch the way animal species do. We were wrong. Similar stories came from the Centauri, whose crystalline bodies conducted sensation differently but still craved connection. From the Tholians, whose environmental suits made casual touch impossible but who were finding ways to adapt. From species after species who had built cultures around isolation and were now discovering the cost. You have given us permission to question everything, a Centauri delegate said. To ask if the way we have always done things is actually the best way. That is a gift beyond measure. Claire found herself once again in a room full of alien children. But this time it was different. This time the parents were there learning alongside their young, watching as Claire demonstrated simple techniques, gentle touches, soothing circles, ways to communicate love and safety through physical contact. A young Verdani seedling who had been listless and withdrawn perked up when its parent learned to stroke its leaves in a specific pattern. A Centauri child, whose crystalline structure had been developing stress fractures, began to heal when given regular tactile contact. A Tholian youngling, in its environmental suit, learned that love could be communicated through pressure and temperature variations. It was not the same as with the Krell cubs. Every species was different. What worked for one might not work for another. But the principle was universal. Physical affection mattered. Touch healed. And children of all species needed to know they were safe and loved. Vexthor arrived halfway through the session. He had been invited as a consultant, Someone who had already walked this path and could guide others. He stood beside Claire watching as the galaxy slowly learned to be gentler with its young. You know, he said quietly, the council tried to suppress this. They issued statements saying it was cultural contamination. That humans were dangerous because we changed things. I heard, Claire said, but they could not stop it. Because once parents see their children happier, healthier, more secure, they cannot unsee it. Once they feel that connection, they cannot unfeel it. The revolution is too personal, too immediate. It bypasses all the political structures that might have contained it. He watched a Centauri parent awkwardly but lovingly embrace their child. You have done something remarkable, Ambassador. You have reminded the galaxy of something it forgot. That before we are predators or prey warriors or diplomats, different species with different needs, we are all just people trying to care for our young in a complicated universe. Claire smiled. I think the galaxy was ready for this. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Perhaps. Or perhaps humans carry something the rest of us lost. The ability to see past the surface to the fundamental needs we all share. Either way, the galaxy is changing because of it. They stood together watching as dozens of species engaged in something that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Physical affection across cultural boundaries. Parents learning from each other. Children playing together regardless of whether their ancestors were predator or prey. In one corner, Zara was teaching a group of young Centauri a game from her homeworld. Keth and Ren were sprawled in a pile with several Verdani seedlings, all of them making content sounds. The barriers that had seemed so solid, so eternal, were dissolving in the face of simple connection. The Council will adapt, Vexler said. They have no choice. This is not a political movement they can negotiate with or suppress. This is millions of individual families making personal choices. How do you fight that? You do not fight it, Claire said. You join it. 1 year after the original summit, the Galactic Council officially recognized what they called the Connection Initiative. It was a framework for cross-species cultural exchange focused on family practices and child development. It had support from over 100 species. Opposition from only a handful of the most conservative factions. Claire stood before the Council to formally accept recognition for her role in starting the initiative. She looked out at the assembled delegates. She saw Krell sitting peacefully beside species they once would have intimidated. She saw Verdani and Centauri and Tholian and dozens of others, all connected by a simple truth. That caring for the young was more important than old prejudices. I did not set out to change the galaxy, Claire said in her S.